What's up, Titans fans, and welcome to another edition of the Titans Global Podcast. I'm your host, Maximus Titan Fan, and with me, as always, is my good buddy Link. What's up, bro?
What's going on? Good to be here. Another Titans preseason win to talk about. As always, we want you guys to like, subscribe, comment, and definitely comment. We want to see you guys in the chat. Agree with us, disagree with us, as long as you're talking to us. That's what matters. So let's get right into it.
Absolutely. And yeah, like you said, we're pretty much gonna talk about the game, kind of recap it. Another win, even though it's preseason, it's still nice. We're also going to talk about maybe the injury bug that's going around, but hey, it's a lot of backups and a little bit of other news. We'll just call it other Titans news. But Titans Global Podcast brought to you by Red Zone Builders. And let's see, we got us tomorrow. Games 1:00, 1:00 Central Time. So if you're on Eastern Time like me, it's weird because it's at 2:00. But I guess it's weird for you guys too, because it's usually at noon, right?
Yeah. Yep.
So I tried to find a different channel affiliate like I've done the past 2 weeks, whatever. But there's the only thing I could find was CBS. So CBS, NFL Network, or whatever stream, YouTube, whatever thing you have, or you can just download the Titans app and watch it for free on your mobile data. But injuries, I just wanted to, roll over this real quick. But the injuries, according to Paul Kuharsky, I did kind of jack this from him, but whatever. Kearis Jackson has a bruised knee and is questionable. Jabari Small is in concussion protocol. He will not be in the game, more than likely. Josh Wiley is still in concussion protocol from where he got one in practice last week, I think it was, in the joint practices. What's up, Angie? How you doing? Kyle Phillips is out with a hamstring, questionable. TK McClendon not going to play for at least 3 or 4 weeks, and Otis Reese concussion in the game, so probably out for this week. But all those guys are backups. The problem is it really affects the roster placing. Not saying that they don't already pretty much have their minds made up, because I have my mind made up on a few different players, but it definitely hinders them. But on a good note, quickly before I move on, but Stonehouse may be back.
Yep.
I hope to see Stonehouse out there. They mentioned it, so I'm sure they're going to let him get out there, warm the old leg up, see what the mule's still got. From what we saw in practice, man, he was nailing him. So I don't think there's going to be any problem with that. You got any thoughts on the injuries?
No, hadn't lost a step as far as Stonehouse goes, from what I can tell. And yeah, I mean, it's disappointing for guys, especially like Kyle Phillips, who to me right now was on the outside looking in with this roster. I'm sure we'll get into that a little bit more later, but yeah, I mean, it's frustrating for the younger guys. But like you said, I think this roster is really starting to come together as far as what this coaching staff wants. And it'll be good to see some starters get back out there in the next game. Talked about putting them in for 2 to 3 series, which I think they need. We didn't see any what I would think would be starters against the Seahawks, which I don't know. I have my thoughts on that. Don't fully agree with it, but I think there's some younger guys who could really use the reps. I mean, that's the most important thing in a rookie career, is just getting in-game reps. So, yeah, I mean, injuries are disappointing, but it's next man up, and part of being in the NFL is being available. So, things happen, concussions happen, tweaks happen, but it's a physical game. So, hurts to see it, but kind of is what it is. Next man up at this point.
Yeah, I was going to say it kind of stinks for some of these guys, if they don't get to play the last game. But at the same time, like you said, that's part of your selling point, is how available you are. I really hope Kearis can pull through and play, just because I'd like to see him on the roster. But he's not one of my locks so far. But if we are talking about locks, let me go ahead and ask you a good question, buddy, because I've actually got 3. But was there any one who made themselves a lock on the roster for you?
If he wasn't already Jaquan Jackson, I mean, I think that's in a lot of people's minds right now. Led the team in receiving for this game, and I mean, played 74% of the offensive snaps, not just special teams. I mean, that's offense at receiver. So obviously, there's something the coaching staff sees in him. He's taking advantage of every opportunity he's had, and I mean, other than one day with Calvin Ridley, probably been the most consistent receiver this training camp. I dare say. I mean, his name just keeps coming up, so he's definitely a lock for me at this point. Would not be shocked to see the Titans keep 7 receivers, but even if they keep 6, I don't see a scenario where this kid doesn't make the roster.
I agree. Definitely. Not only does he have great game with the receiving, which he did, like you said, led all receivers and played a masterful game.
Yep.
But at 4 receptions on 4 targets.
Yep.
That's the thing that's important for me. He didn't miss one. Got them all. Plus, he had 2 good returns, one on a kick return, one on a punt return. 2 good returns in this game. Had a good return last game. So already saying this kid might be something special on special teams. But then again, what's going on, Brunell? And Bryce Oliver, man, I'll be honest with you. He's shined in a couple places, but he hasn't shined bright enough for me to probably make the team. Unfortunately, wide receiver is one of those hard. You got anything on that, Link?
Yeah, no, I mean it's this team's very deep at wide receiver this year, which is something we hadn't been able to say in a long time. It feels like you've seen flashes out of Bryce Oliver. I definitely think there's a high ceiling there. Just a young guy doesn't look NFL ready the same way Jaquan Jackson does. If you're comparing the two, so I think he'll be a good piece on the practice squad. Don't necessarily see him on the final 53, in my opinion.
Totally agree. The other one you got to give it up for, or for me anyway, that locked this spot in was Julius Chestnut. I think we finally got our RB3. No questions asked. I think he outperformed everybody so far for me anyway. The only person that was really questioning him was Hassan Haskins. I think a lot of people even put him ahead of him. But man, I really feel like this game he showed that it not only is he got the vision, but the strength, his quickness, burst, catch out of the backfield. I mean, he can kind of do it all. So I think the kid did really good for himself there.
Yeah, I wouldn't totally disagree with that. It kind of interesting to see. I think Chestnut had 33 offensive snaps compared to Haskins 18. So I think that was more of the coaching staff trying to see Chestnut, giving him a little more opportunity to let him take that job. I said before the game that I thought it was still Haskins to lose. I don't think that one is set in stone yet. I think it is going to be an interesting 3rd preseason game. I think you're going to see a lot of reps from both of those guys. Just to figure out, who they want at that position. But yeah, I mean, in my opinion, I think Chestnut did take a big leap forward, shows that he can be dangerous in the passing game the last 2 weeks. So yeah, I mean, he's a versatile back, and Hassan Haskins, he's going to have a pretty big game, pretty big show out game coming up against New Orleans to stay in that battle for sure.
Yeah, man, definitely. But mainly the Jabari Small experiment, unfortunately, is probably over.
Yeah, I would agree. A lot of heart out of him, a lot of fight. Not a terrible game. It hasn't really played terrible. Just hasn't been able to show the same explosiveness like you see from Chestnut, like you see from Haskins. Still going to be, a big practice squad piece. I think he'll get his opportunity, whether it be here or somewhere else. Wouldn't be shocked to see him picked up, on waivers as a 3rd running back somewhere else. That wouldn't surprise me at all, but we'll see what happens. But yeah, I don't necessarily see him when I'm breaking this roster down. He's right there on that cusp, right behind whether it be Chestnut or Haskins. Just can't keep 4 to 5 running backs on this roster. Not at how deep they are at all the other positions. It's going to be 3 running backs going into the cut, in my opinion, and then these practice squad guys. They're going to have to hang around because injuries happen for sure.
That's actually a good question. I haven't really answered it. I mean, I kind of did, I guess, but social media questions. Somebody said, "Would you rather keep 4 tight ends or 7 wide receivers?"
I was actually going to talk about this tonight. If you had have asked me before this game, I would have said 7 wide receivers. But now seeing who's emerging at the wide receiver position and who's going to still be battling injuries, and after seeing the tight ends perform the way that they have, if you ask me today, I'm going to say 4 tight ends. Man, Martin Robinson, he's a weapon. He's a weapon, and to have him there with Chig and with Wiley, and then Wiley's availability is kind of up in there right now. I don't know. He looked like he had a tweak, so we'll see what happens. But yeah, at this point, I'm saying 4 tight ends and then 6 wide receivers, the way it stands today.
See, every now and then we disagree, because for me personally, with the personnel that they run most of the time, yeah, I'm gonna have to say 7 wide receivers, because I feel like they're gonna need it. And I also feel like that Kearis Jackson is probably that one for me that's right on the bubble, and I feel like he can bring something to us in the return game, if nothing else. So I feel like that's why I keep this. I mean, I see it both ways. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But for me, the answer is 7 wide receivers, and that's why. But I love it sometimes when we don't quite agree on things, because that makes it interesting. I didn't talk about this guy, but another guy I thought honestly earned himself a roster spot. He was already getting talked about a lot in camp, but Jalen Harrell from Michigan. Dude, two sacks, I think it was, yeah, and then one of them was a strip sack. Good job, young man. I think he had a tackle for a loss on a running back too, if I'm not mistaken. But kid was live. He was in a couple different plays. I saw him a lot. I think it was 92. Is that right? I think it's number 92.
Yeah, that sounds right. Yes.
Yeah, I saw 92 a lot. That's why I'm saying that. And every replay, I could see number 92 actively working. And that's what gets you the sacks in the NFL is high motor. Don't quit. Anything you want to talk about on Harrell?
Yeah, no, I liked him, during camp. Thought he could be a big piece. Kind of what I expected. I mean, just the guy who's going to make the most of his opportunities. And like you said, I mean, he's straight out of a cannon. I mean, finds a way to always be around the ball, never gives up on a play. He's going to run somebody down. So, yeah, I mean, I love the effort. It's what you want to see out of young guys like that. And, yeah, I mean, I think he's got a good shot the way that it stands right now. I was trying to see what his snap count was out of curiosity. I'll find that here in just a second, because it seemed like he was on. So, yeah, 18 defensive snaps, 41%. And for him to show up the way that he did, what seemed like every play that he was out there, I mean, that says a lot about just making the most of your opportunities.
Yeah, and it really, really puts a spotlight, in not a good way, on Weaver.
Yeah.
I mean, we've been kind of talking about the lack of Weaver the entire preseason. Mm-hmm. And, man, if you can't win against the 2s and the 3s,
yep,
you're definitely not going to win against the 1s. So I don't know about I don't know if Rashad Weaver's going to make it, y'all. Chance Campbell, though, another. I mean, not the stellar games that he was having before, but still another great game. Led the team in tackles at 8. Had a tackle for loss. Again, saw his number all over the place. It's another one that you just see in replays over and over and over again. So,
Yep. Simple thing there, 100% of the snaps. That is not something you see very often in an NFL game. That just shows you how much trust his coaching staff, how much trust and how much potential they see in him to leave him out there on every single defensive play. So 44 total snaps, 100%. I mean, he led that defense this week, in my opinion. And again, I think it was more of he didn't have the breakout game like some people might have expected, but I think the Seahawks saw the tape. They saw him at training camp. They knew what he was capable of. They were kind of scheming around, what he can do. And then, when you're out there 100% of the snaps, it's going to be tough to go 100% every single time. So yeah, I think it was a good, solid game for him. I think he secured his spot on this roster. Huge training camp for this guy, and I've got nothing but respect for him and what he's been able to do coming back off that injury.
Yeah, man. I was gonna bring this up anyway, because it's a good question, but it's one of the young men I used to coach in football, so I absolutely have to give him a little shout out. What's up, Logan? But what do you think about the defense this season, and do you think it's improved from last season? I'll let you take the first one on that one.
I think this defense has a lot more potential than last year's defense does. It's going to be something where they've got to put it all together. We haven't seen a lot of times where you've got your full secondary out there at the same time, with being limited on Chidobe, being limited on Sneed. It's going to take some time for this defense to live up to the potential, in my opinion. I don't think it's going to be the product you get in week 1 is not the product you're going to get in week 13. I'll put it that way. I do think the ceiling is much, much higher. So we'll see what happens. I think you've got a lot more pieces up front that can wreak havoc. I'm ready to see Sweat grow as a player. He's, again, another guy with a lot of upside, but he's got to show it on a consistent basis. That's one thing that hasn't been there. I've seen flashes. I need to see consistency. So the opportunity to be much, much better than last year, absolutely. They just got to go out and prove it, is my opinion on that.
Yeah, I mean, I pretty much agree with you. They haven't had the full roster out there yet, so you really don't know what it's going to look like with Sneed and Chidobe. But from just a scheme standpoint of looking at it, it is much more aggressive.
Yep.
And they they use a lot more man coverage, and they tie down their receivers better than they used to. That's pretty much the only way I can describe it. Their coverage is much better. They run man about 50% of the time, and they blitz a lot. And from different areas. They come from middle linebacker. They come from safety, cornerback. I mean, obviously outside linebacker, but it's really fun. It's a fun defense to watch. I'll say that. It's a make or break kind of defense, but that's the other thing. We've talked about it before. How the Titans have this thing about these, just hang in the game. We'll eat clock. We'll do this, but then you get beat by that one big explosive play.
Yep.
And these plays this defense is literally designed to not let you get those big explosive plays, because either the quarterback doesn't have time because the pressure's getting to him, or the guys are locked up with man-to-man defense of good man play and aggressive play at the line. That's another huge thing. Cornerbacks, safeties are super aggressive at the line. Absolutely love our new defensive scheme as far as I've seen it, as of right now.
Yeah, I would say, honestly, if they can stay healthy, I think the biggest thing is staying healthy, because you've got some pieces in secondary, but you're not super, super deep at that position. So if they can stay healthy, if they can figure it out early, they have the opportunity, in my opinion, to be a top 10, top 8 defense in the league. But then again, like you said, it's kind of a make or break defense the way that they're built. So if they get injuries, if they end up not being able to mesh off each other, if they're not able to get penetration like we saw in the first preseason game, they could easily fall to that 25th, 26th defense in the league. So it's really going to be kind of an up or down. But again, I can't stress enough, the product you see, in order to get these blitz schemes working, in order for everybody to get in sync with each other, it's going to take 3 to 4 weeks, in my opinion. So, they're coming out against a Browns team that a Bears team that looks really good in week one. It's going to be a good test for them. It's going to be a good way for the secondary to figure out what they've got back there. So, yeah, I mean, it's a good opportunity to start strong, but we'll see what happens and how quick they can figure things out.
Yep. And if you've enjoyed the show so far, just stick around. We got about a 40-second ad coming up from our sponsor, and we have good content after that. I think it's good. Stick around. What's up, Titans fans? Maximus Titan fan here. Are you in need of professional excavation services? Look no further. Red Zone Builders has the expertise, experience, and equipment to handle all or any excavation project, big or small. Whether you need land clearing, site preparation, trenching, foundation excavation, or any other excavation services, they have you covered. Their team of skilled professionals work diligently to ensure your project is completed safely, efficiently, and to your satisfaction. Trust the experts at Red Zone Builders to get the job done right. Gotta love that, man. Just that experience ad reading, bro. You can tell I've done that a million times.
Absolutely.
But seriously, they are a great company, and they are, sponsoring us. So they're supporting us right now so we can bring this great content to you. If I get more sponsors, then guess what? We can bring even more, even better content as that comes along. Indifferent about both sides of the ball. I'm It's one of my huge followers. That's why I'm kind of putting him up here, because he constantly followed me for a long time. But I don't understand because I mean, I get it. They're a little bit, I don't know. It's very different as a Titans fan to watch a game. But they move the ball consistently when Malik Willis isn't in the game. And I mean, they did a good job, I feel like, in the preseason so far. So I don't know. But what's up, Walt? How you doing, brother?
Are you, to kind of build on that question, just
it.
out of curiosity, are you more excited about what you see in the offense, or are you more excited about what you see in the defense? Do you think, let me phrase it this way. Which side of the ball do you think is going to make the biggest jump?
Offense.
Okay.
Clearly. I mean, coming from a defensive-minded coach like Vrabel, I mean, I've already seen the difference. I mean, our pass run ratio is actually about 50%, and instead of a 10% of those pass plays being stupid ass gadget plays, pardon my French, but I mean that's really what it was. They're not. They're well thought out, and you see we have, like, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 different offensive personnels that we set up with constantly. And we play differently out of them every single so that to me is just good. That's just good coaching, man. Yeah. I don't know. KISS, keep it simple, stupid. I always feel like the simpler offense is the way to go. And to be honest, these guys are showing out. Even the 2s and 3s are showing out. Malik Willis even looks better. That's silly to say, but it is true. It is very true. He looked a lot better, but he's still not, that's something else I want to talk about. But let's just segue right into that.
Mm-hmm.
We clearly have a number 2 and number 3 quarterback here.
Yeah, I agree.
It is blatantly obvious. What's the numbers from that? Hang on just a second. Darn it. I had the wrong thing up. So Willis went 12 of 16 for 116 yards and a pick for a rating of 68.8. But Mason had a 10 for 17, 125 yard with a touchdown and produced a 101 rating.
Yep.
There you go. It can't be any more black and white than that right there. And the fact that Malik struggled through the first quarter, they get into the second quarter, they let him go ahead with his drive.
Mm-hmm.
And then Mason comes off the bench, boom, goes right down the field, scores a touchdown.
Yep. No, I agree. There's clearly a reason why Rudolph was brought in and paid the money he was by this team. He was brought in to be the number 2. I think that was always, the coach's plan was to keep him as the number 2. Malik Willis had his chance, and hey, that's not to say that he hasn't progressed. I mean, he's definitely came a long way. I still think he's got a future at least being a backup at some point, whether it be here, whether it be somewhere else. But this preseason to me was more about figuring out, can Malik be our backup next year? That's kind of what this preseason was, to see what kind of growth he can make, to see what kind of jump he can make. Yeah, I mean, there's more that goes into it as far as, could we kind of showcase him, get a trade? I mean, yeah, all that's thought about. But to me, this preseason was, what could he be next year? And I mean, he's shown flashes. I don't think that he's really solidified that yet. I don't know that his skill set is much different. I mean, we've seen him. He was the leading rusher last week, the second leading rusher this week. I mean, his skill set just isn't what I feel like this offense is going to be built around, which is going to be pocket passing, deep shots. And so, yeah, to me, he's the number 3. I still think he makes the roster. I don't see him. I think quarterback play in this league is so up in the air with all 32 teams that he makes this roster just off of, we might need him at some point. I mean, because it is possible that both go down, God forbid. But so I do think he makes this roster, but he's not the number 2. He's not going to be the number 2. You're not going to see him back up Levis.
Yeah, man. I mean, I'm not being mean or anything. I'm just being real. It's just the way it is. Yeah, we've talked about it before. That this team obviously is looking for players that can just flip flop. You know what I mean? So that's clearly where it's at. Yeah, exactly. But yeah, even in a new offense, I mean, and personally, I think with an offensive mind like Callahan, he'd probably use Malik a lot better than he was getting utilized under the variable system. But I still don't think that there's enough there to keep him around after next season when his contract runs up. I think that'll be it. I think that's the end of the Malik Willis era in the Titans organization. Although I do think he will get a job somewhere else. And I think it'll be rather quickly. Yeah. I don't think he'll stay on the market very long. I think he's a bright young man with the right coaching, the right system. Something like Baltimore runs, man, he'd be right on. So there's that.
I mean, let's face it, we live in a world where Geno Smith is about to be a starting quarterback, where Sam Darnold, for God's sake, is about to be a starting quarterback. So it's not like he's not going to have another opportunity. I mean, guys that I never thought would even be around to stick in this league are now starting on NFL teams. So crazier things have happened. I don't see it. I don't see it being here in Tennessee with Malik.
Yeah, man. That's rat birds. Yeah, that's exactly right. But I'm just saying, that's the kind of game that would fit his style. But what was that guy's name? Chip Kelly?
Yeah.
Get him in the Chip Kelly offense. Yeah. He'd do great.
Yeah.
So let's move on to another subject. And since I'm on the social media thing, I said something on social media about the Braden Narveson kid, and somebody was like, oh man, could this be one of those opportunities that we had where we had Brett Kern and Stonehouse came in and looked really good as a rookie and looked so good that we couldn't let him go. And, is this kind of the same thing with Folk and Narveson? And it was easily a no.
Yeah.
All you have to do is look at his college record, man. Stonehouse was a freaking god on the last year of his college. He had a 50.9 average on almost 3,000 yards of 59 punts, which is just sick. So, no, they're not even close to the same.
Yep. Yeah, look, we I love Titans fans, and I myself get hyped. But if preseason was real football, then Narveson would be upsetting Justin Tucker as the best kicker, and Jaquan Jackson would be a Hall of Famer, and Mason Rudolph would be coming in to save the Titans franchise. But we don't live in that world. This is preseason football. Guy had a great kick, 59-yarder, room to go, probably good from 63. In my opinion, then made a game winner. So yeah, we saw the consistency in the last game What we haven't seen is the consistency at practice, and we haven't seen the consistency in his college career. That speaks volumes. I mean, if the coaching staff likes the guy, I mean, they're giving him opportunities, but Folk hasn't done anything. If you get him inside of 50 yards, he's basically automatic. Still has a leg on him. You've got him for another year. There's just no point to take a risk on a guy when you have someone in your back pocket like Folk. So to me, it's not worth the talk. I'm happy for the guy. I do think he'll probably get picked up and has potential to be a kicker somewhere this year. I wouldn't be surprised to see a team take a shot on him, but Titans are just in a position right now where it's not worth giving up Folk to take a shot on a guy like Narveson for me.
That's it, man. Folk has at least got another year or two in him. He's fine, and he's doing a good job. Let's just leave well enough alone. It's just like the suck up time, let's not do that again. Derek, man, I love you, dude. But yeah, no, Vince and MMA. Look, man, I've had this argument with a lot of people about Marcus Mariota, but I'm not going to do it again tonight. But let's just say that these guys both lacked in things completely opposite from each other. Actually, if you could take Vince Young's enthusiasm and place it into Marcus Mariota, you have a perfect franchise quarterback. Kid was great. He just was so bland. I don't think he ever took control of the locker room. But again, don't want to get into that, but go ahead if you want to.
Yeah, no, the easiest way for me to respond to that is if you look at it, the game right now just moves too fast for Willis. That's the best way I can describe it. He hasn't learned. He's got a lot better at going through his progressions, making his check downs, not just automatically taking off with the ball when he gets in trouble, but it's the little things where it's just the game is still moving a little bit too quick for him. I don't think he's fully adjusted to, and hey, a lot of that, I hate to say it, but a lot of that's probably goes back to Liberty and how he was coached to just do what he does best. I don't feel like he was developed at the college level. That's my personal opinion. He was told, hey, go win games however you can win them. And that's what he tries to do in the NFL, and it just doesn't work that way when you get to this level. So, I feel like he's just now starting to get the development he's always needed, but he's just not there yet. That's the best way I can describe it.
Yeah, and hey, look at that. Derek agrees with you. Good job. That is good job. So there was something else I wanted to talk about real quick, and I'll kind of glaze over it. We talked a couple weeks ago about when Jeffrey Simmons got into a little skirmish in the practice. And, we both had different opinions on how that looked and how that would or should be responded to. But I really liked, I think we talked about it before. Did you say it was the Patriots? I can't remember.
It was the Patriots.
Thank you.
Yep.
So Patriots head coach Jared Mayo. Of course it is, UT guy. But if you're a starter vet and you get in a fight, play the whole preseason game. And if you're a backup or a rookie, you get absolutely no playing time in the next preseason game. That is the best discipline I've ever heard for an NFL preseason camp to not fight.
Yep. Yeah, pretty interesting way to handle it, because I mean, hey, when it's 90 degrees out and you're in the middle of practice and you've got pads on and you're hitting other guys all day, and I mean, yeah, there's going to get times when temper flares, but if you're a vet in this league, I mean, guys like Jeffrey Simmons, that's going to be in the back of your head, like, man, I don't want to go out there and play a game that means nothing. And I mean, it matters for some guys, but for guys like Jeffrey Simmons, it doesn't. So players like that, it's going to kind of be in the back of their head where it's like, it ain't worth it. So it's a good idea. I mean, I think it's a good premise. It definitely gives the young guys some encouragement to kind of keep cool heads, calmer heads prevail. So yeah, good idea. And I like what he did with it.
Yeah, I think honestly, every team should adapt this. This is just fantastic. So I think we've hit just about everything I wanted to.
I will say one point I didn't get to. I don't know. Of course, there are some guys I think were a lock on the roster. I think you may have seen Radens lock up a position at starting right guard. Not necessarily out of his play, but I was very disappointed with what I saw from Rupchich. Big opportunity for him this week. I thought he was still in the fight for that right guard position. Man, pre-snap penalties, holding penalties, the things that you don't want to see in preseason, he managed to show them all. So for better or for worse, it looks like Radens is kind of going to run away with that right guard position with the way it stands right now. I do expect him to play in this game against the Saints. Hopefully he can put out a good performance. He's definitely going to have to put out a good performance in training camp leading up to it. So yeah, we'll see what happens. And I don't want to see mistakes out of either player, but Rupchich really disappointed for me this week. He's definitely a stock down guy, maybe the biggest stock down guy for me.
Yeah, I was not happy with that either. Yeah, it seemed like every time they were calling something, well, they called a lot of penalties on us though. And to be honest, yeah, a lot of them I saw. There was a couple of them that were blatantly honest or blatantly obvious, but I think they said 9 penalties for 90 yards or something like that. Does that sound right?
I believe so. I can double check that, but yeah, that should be right.
But yeah, that's just terrible, man. That's just sloppy play. Brunskill, I can tell you why not Brunskill, but basically he's old. That's the easiest answer. He's old and not athletic enough as to what they want to do with pulling guards and such.
Yep.
That is why they don't want to play David Brunskill.
Yep. I mean, he could be a good swing position player. He offers you a depth piece, but I still think Radens, even with his inconsistencies, he's still more of the type of player that you need on this offense. I mean, based on what your roster is, the Sadiq thing really hurts looking back. I mean, that's just I hate to keep going back to it, but that's just a killer because Radens was supposed to be your Brunskill. He was supposed to be your depth piece, your swing guy who could come in, play both sides of the center, who could kind of come in if somebody was injured. And now here he is getting thrown into a position where I don't know that he's ready to start yet, but he's got to figure it out. He's got to figure it out quick.
Yeah, man. I tell you, there was this guy online that was constantly talking about him and always bringing up how he thinks he should be a starter in this league. And then he goes and retires.
Yeah.
Honestly, it blew my mind. But, hey, to each his own. Like I said before, hope everything's fine with him and hope it was just because he was just done with football, man.
Yep.
I don't know many people that would turn down the type of money that an NFL player makes for doing what they do. But, I mean, sure. Weirder things have happened, I suppose.
Yeah, definitely something going on there. I don't intend to speculate or nothing like that. But man, just as a piece of the offense, it really hurts. I mean, that may be one of the bigger upsets of the training camp, in my opinion, was that retirement. So because it just puts you in a position where you felt like you're really starting to lock things up on the line, and then something like that happens, and you're kind of back at plan A or back at square one, I guess I should say. But I mean, let's keep in mind, we've got the greatest offensive line coach probably in the history of football. I expect him to figure it out. If they're weak on the right side, which they probably will be, especially early in the season, I think they'll patch that up. They'll figure out ways to make it work. And I mean, if you look at the Browns right now, they lose Callahan, and all of a sudden they're giving up the most pressures. They're giving up the worst, hits before yardage in the run game. So I mean, they're struggling right now with their offensive line. So it just goes to show you how valuable he was in that offensive scheme. And I expect it to be, the same with the Titans. I think he's going to come in. I think he's going to make a big difference, and he's going to polish these turds up.
Yeah, dude. I tell you, man. To be honest, you can tell the difference from the first time I saw him when we went to the practice, how they move people, how they move Bertha and Olga, how they, I mean, And then when they played, man, oh my God. Oh yeah, yeah. What's up, Hugo? Yes, I am ready. I am ready to go. I apologize. Oh wow. Well, prayers up to you, brother. Hope
Absolutely.
everything's all right. But yes, you are right, Derek. Actually, we do need very athletic type of guards. That's what he's looking for. Athletic guys that can get that can pull, move around, move the pocket around. That's the kind of stuff they like to do, and that's what I'm excited to see. Other than that, folks, if you're just joining us, I'm sorry. I think that wraps it up. Any final thoughts? Let's see. Got pregame show Friday coming up. Other than that, any thoughts, Link?
Yeah, no, I think that's it. Just excited to get back to it. Another big week of practice. Going to see who shows up, who's able to get back out there. This is the time where tweaks and heavy legs and all that stuff's going to happen. So this is the week when you're really going to see who's going to be able to pull through after 2 preseason games, who's going to be able to kind of shake it off, get back out there and impress. So yeah, I do think the starters are going to play this coming up game. We'll get into that a little bit more in the pregame show, but going to be a big rehab week. So we'll see how much they put on them in practice. But yeah, just excited to get back to it. It's been great so far.
Yep. And again, thank you for joining us. Thank you. We love you. Go check us out on YouTube if you haven't subbed up. Join the party. We're always having a party over here. It seems like a party, don't it? But until next time, everybody, tighten up. Peace out.